Once a building has been restored, it starts a new life as a welcoming place for people to stay. But just like any home, there are jobs to keep up with, and these are overseen by our team of surveyors. Carole Paton looks after buildings in the southwest of England.
So every year we do an annual inspection with the regional property manager. Obviously over a longer period we might be looking at upgrading, so we might be looking at putting a new heating system in, or a new bathroom or a new kitchen, just in the same way that you would do to your own house. With regard to heating, we look there's a first port of call really at green energy, and trying to introduce green energy into our buildings, not only because it's cheaper for the running costs of it, but quite often it's better for the building because we can heat the building for a longer period but to a lower temperature, so it has less of the shock of a traditional central heating system which comes on for 4 hours and goes off for 4 hours. So that's a route we're taking. At Anderton House we're going to be trying an air-to-air heat source, which is a first for us. We've used an air-to-water, so we use a heat pump that takes energy from the air and transfers that water into a wet system like the traditional radiator system or an underfloor heating system. But Anderton House will be the first where we've tried taking the energy from the air and then blowing it around the building. Anderton House is a bit unusual in that it's an open plan building, so that does lend itself to that, and we don't have many buildings that will actually do that.
Our buildings generally require the skills of traditional craftsmen and women. These specialist skills have in the past often been difficult to source.
The skills we need, I've noticed really over the last 10 years that there's much more awareness of the needs of old buildings than there was, say, 20 years ago when everybody was using cement for everything. People are now much more aware of the benefits of using lime and traditional materials, and with that has come a bit of an upsurge really in traditional crafts. The colleges are much more aware of that, and they're training people in traditional skills. I think working with old buildings does appeal to youngsters because it's in some ways more hands-on. You get more involved with the building than you would with a modern building. It's not just about going to a site and laying a number of bricks in a day. It's much more about a feel and an empathy with the building. And that's, I think, what we find our craftsmen really enjoy about the buildings that they work with, that they can get under the skin of the building. And they enjoy the problems that throws up, and that they're not having to do something mechanical day after day. Every day requires a different thought process, a different skill. And the rewards at the end are great because they can stand back and look at the building and feel proud of what they've done. And I think that's what we all kind of look for in a day's work, really.
But working with old buildings is not just about repair and renewal. There is much to learn from these old buildings that helps advance and test new green ideas and technologies.
I mean, my personal feeling is that the traditional way of building was a very green way of building, because things were local. They were dug out of the ground locally. You used what you had locally. You didn't transport it because you hadn't got the transport. You used the local labour because you couldn't bring labour in. Some of the newest technology is using things like hemp and limecrete, and really there's nothing new in that. It's just they're using hemp and they're not using straw. So a new way of building is looking back to the old ways of doing things, I think. And it's being done with great success. The embodied energy in buildings built like that is much, much lower than using a lot of cement and manufactured products, plastics and the like.